IVM.
Hey everybody, quick request once again, if you could help us out by filling out our survey. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. This really helps us talk to advertisers about the kinds of people listening to these shows. Really do appreciate your help, and we're going to be doing a random drawing, and we'll be sending out some IVM swag. Hope you enjoy that.
Hi, I'm Utsav, a behavior researcher by training and a slow traveler by passion. Postcards from Nowhere is a travel podcast where I condense a decade of travel experiences and explore not just the where, but also the why and how to travel. My stories emerged from slow traveling the less explored parts of the world: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Armenia, Uzbekistan, and even China. At the end of each story, I give practical tips and new ideas about how to travel better. This week, I take you up close to the Raramuri people in Mexico who are known to run 200 miles in one stretch, and what we could learn from them. In the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics, two men represented Mexico in a marathon. These runners did not follow any training programs. They did not time or measure their runs. They did not taper before a race or gulp recovery drinks afterwards. They were, and continue to be, nutritionally deficient by most athletic standards. Yet, they came in with the reputation of being runners whose capabilities could not be matched. They were the favorites to win. So, it came as a shock when they failed to win any medals. The same story repeated in the 1968 Olympics. On each occasion, the runners finished in respectable times. They finished the race with unharried composure. In fact, they had to be stopped and informed that they had covered the required distance and the race was over. They were surprised and offended by the distance. 26 miles was too short. They had expected this to be a real race. Decades later, in a race titled Leadville Trail 100, the true nature of these runners came to the fore. This was a race of nearly 4 full marathons, half of them in the dark, with twin 2,600-foot climbs smack in the middle. So high up was it in the mountains that the starting line was twice as high as the altitude where aeroplanes pressurized their cabins. Running this race was a 33-year-old community college science teacher from California, Anne Trazen. In a race dominated by men, Anne was an outlier, but also the dark horse. She had smashed world records at 50 miles, 100 kilometers and 100 miles, and set 10 more world bests on both track and road. However, she was yet to win a major ultramarathon. Anne started the race and led for most of the 90 miles. She had made it to the home stretch. All she had left was the last 10 miles of rolling dirt trail. It was just past 8 in the evening. The woods around her were sinking into darkness. And then something burst out from the trees behind her. A man whizzed past her and disappeared down the trail. Anne had just been beaten by a man from the legendary Raramuri, a group of indigenous people of the Americas living in the state of Chihuahua in Mexico. They are known to be the absolute masters of endurance running. Their name literally means running on foot and have been documented to run up to 200 miles in one session over a period of 2 days. They run through their homeland of rough canyon country for inter-village communication, transportation, and hunting. 2 things stand out for the Raramuri. One is Rarajipari, the traditional games. Often, men kick wooden balls as they run in foot-throwing competitions, and women use a stick and hoop. The foot-throwing races are relays where the balls are kicked by the runners and relayed to the next runner, while teammates run ahead to the next relay point. These races can last anywhere from a few hours to a couple of days without a break. Second, they are known for persistence hunting. The Raramuri community hunt with bows and arrows, but are also known for their ability to run down deer and wild turkeys. Anthropologist Jonathan F. Castle describes their hunting abilities. They literally run the birds to death, forced into a rapid series of takeoffs without sufficient rest periods in between. The heavy-bodied bird does not have the strength to fly or run away from the hunter. But remember Anne? In the book Born to Run, Christopher McDougall writes about how Anne felt at the moment when the man whizzed past her. She, for one, was not impressed, but rather stunned. She froze in place in the middle of the trail. There was only one thought running in her mind. He did not even look tired. It's like he was just having fun. Anne was so crushed that she decided to quit, despite being just an hour away from the finish line. The joyfulness of the Raramuri runner had disheartened her. Here she was absolutely killing herself to maintain her lead. And now this guy comes in and snatches it. Just like that. Endurance running is one of the hardest athletic pursuits out there. An ultramarathon is a binary equation made up of hundreds of yes and no questions. Eat now or wait? Bomb down this hill or throttle back and save the quads for the flats? Find out what is itching in your sock or push on? Extreme distance magnifies every problem. A blister becomes a blood-soaked sock. A declined power bar becomes a woozy inability to follow trail markers. So, all it takes is one wrong answer to ruin a race. However, an increasing number of studies are looking at the ways athletes transition from states of mental and physical depletion through to states of perseverance and even euphoria. One hypothesis that has been proposed to account for altered states of consciousness frequently reported in these endurance sports is transient hypofrontality. Extreme movement requires enormous amounts of neural computation. This is best exemplified by the fact that while AI conquered the world of chess quite some time ago, it is a long way from creating a two-legged robot that might compete with a human at a 100-mile mountain race. But aside from AI and what it can and cannot do, there is a simpler reason why the Raramuri excel at running. They had never forgotten what it felt like to love running. They remembered that running was mankind's first fine art, our original act of inspired creation. Way before we were scratching pictures on caves or beating rhythms on hollow trees, we were perfecting the art of combining our breath, mind, and muscles into fluid self-propulsion over wild terrain. And when our ancestors finally did make their first cave paintings, what were the designs? A downward slash, lightning bolts through the middle and bottom, and behold, the running man. The reason probably Anne felt so crushed was not because she was a petty or a jealous person. She realized that she was running against someone who ran not for glory, not for satisfaction, and not even for becoming better at it. They were running for fun. You simply cannot compete and win against someone who's having fun. As we kick off the new year, I wish that each one of you finds something fun to do in your lives. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Utsav Mamoria on Twitter and YVTravel42 on Instagram.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, it's 2021 now. It's time you did. You didn't in 2020. That was bad enough. But now in 2021, you really should. It's IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And a quick reminder to everybody, just please help us out with our survey, ivmpodcast.com/survey. We've had a number of you fill it out so far, but we want to shatter last year's number, right? Really blow that up. Go fill out the survey over there. If you do, we'll select from the emails that we have got submitted, and we'll be sending out some interesting swag to people. So what should you be listening to this week? First thing I want to talk about is the unprecedented episode. We did a triple crossover. Vineet Kanabar from Storytellers and Storysellers, Varun Dugirala from Advertising is Dead, and Karthik Nagarajan from the Filter Coffee Podcast all got together and put together a mega episode. Do check it out on whichever of their feeds you want. It's available on all three. On Naan Curry, the guy spoke about the history of alcohol in India. It's got a longer history than people would think. Definitely do check it out. Another show I want to call out this week a little bit is The Note by Maruk Inayat. Maruk had 2 fantastic episodes this week. She did her first episode with Amitabh Mattu about the elections in Kashmir, and then she did another one where she told the story of how she faked her identity to interview Benazir Bhutto. Definitely do check it out. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
जिंदगी डायरीज के पन्नों में कुछ पुरानी यादें, समुंदर किनारे झूमते दरख्त, जवान दिल की धड़कनें और अनजान मुलाकातें हैं। तो आइए खोलिए मेरे साथ जिंदगी डायरी के पन्ने और साथ ही खुलकर जीते हैं जिंदगी। आप सुन सकते हैं जिंदगी डायरीज IVM पॉडकास्ट ऐप या वेबसाइट पर, या जहां कहीं से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो।